Hey everybody, so I'm going to talk about repetition, and sometimes we think that we can just figure it out, and sometimes it's totally relevant. We just figure it out. But sometimes we really need repetition to do things over and over again so that we become so comfortable and so familiar with what we're doing that it does become second nature because of the repetition. So for example, I'm walking on a trail. This particular trail I walk on a lot. It is something that I continue on this trail over and over and over again. So there is repetition in me going on this trail. Now, because I am going on this trail repeatedly, I know where I am at a certain turn and a certain curve. I can approximate that it'll take me to get from here to there this much time because I've done it so many other times. So there is benefit to having repetition because you become knowledgeable, you increase your wisdom about a particular subject matter. In this case, my familiarity with this trail and how I'm advancing through this trail and knowing what's around the corner because I've practiced by repetition to go on this trail. The other thing is, when you train your body to go on different variables, such as I'm on this trail when it's dry, like today, there are leaves on the ground. So leaves on the ground make it a certain level of challenge because I can't see where all the tree stumps are. And I have to be, careful with my placement of my feet. And I have to be mindful of where, how I'm tilting or torquing my ankle based on where I'm placing each step. So these things sometimes go on, quote, unconsciously, but in reality, it is somewhat planned because I know the trail, right? Now, when it's raining and I'm on the same trail, it's a completely different reality. It's still the same trail, but the challenges are different because you've got the water, you've got the mud, you've got the slipperage. If the leaves are already on the ground, then the water plus the mud creates additional challenge. So even the temperature, if it's snowing, that would also make this terrain and this simple same trail be completely different if there's snow on the ground. So all of those seasonal variables are going to play on how long it takes me to get through the trail. Now, right now, it's fall. The temperature is probably like 50 degrees. It's super comfortable. It's not hot. There are no bugs. It's pleasant. Like, this is my favorite temperature. But when it's super hot, like the summer, and there's bugs and flies, swarming everywhere, that's not fun for me. I don't like that, and sweat's dripping off of you. That's not so fun. I always would prefer, the fall or the winter. The winter also brings, when you have the snow, it's like a blanket of calm that is over top of everything. And then when the water has the ice and, the ice and snow on the water, that's also magical. So it's about how you perceive things. Somebody else might be like, oh my gosh, why are you going on a trail when it's snowing outside? Are you crazy? No, I'm not crazy. It's about what I enjoy. So again, it's all about perspective. What are you willing to do? What's comfortable for you? Where does your comfort zone begin? Where does your comfort zone end? And within that comfort zone, what are you willing to do? And what are you willing to not do? So this is part of the stream here. It's pretty low right now. We have not had a lot of rain for quite some time. So for me, I look at this and I say, it's pleasant for me to be able to be on a trail where there's not a lot of people on this particular trail. And to me, I put a high value on that. If this was like, 5 o'clock, this would be a completely different trail, and this would be a completely different reality with tons of people, riding bikes and walking their dogs, etc. So again, the timing of when we choose to make our entrance or our exit and when we want to do something has, again, our personal experience and how, by knowing the trail, we're going to have a more full and representative experience when we understand the variables. If we don't know the variables and you get lost, then that can also become a problem. So I remember one day I was out here and I was filming, and I found a woman and her son, and she was like really desperate, and she didn't know where she was, and she's like, how do I get back to the parking lot? And I'm like, well, it depends on what parking lot. And she's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, if you don't know the basics, how am I supposed to help you get back to the start if you don't know where the start is? And then I'm like, well, which trail were you following? Were you following the red, the green, the blue? Well, I don't know. Well, I can't help you if you don't know what trail you're on. So it comes back to if you're going to take a position and you're going to say, I like hiking and I like walking on trails, then it's your responsibility, number one, to have the right gear on so that you can weather whatever the temperatures are. You need to have the right footwear. You also need to be prepared in case something were to happen. So at this given moment, I have water in my pack. I have a solar flashlight that is ready to go. I have 2 iPhones. I have, what is it called? Plugs that I can plug into the solar light to be able to charge up my phones. So what I'm saying is there's certain basics that I have with me because I know that when I have those things with me, I'm more at ease and I'm calmer because if something were to happen, I have a knife. I have a first aid kit. I have all those things that I would need if something were to happen. I have a sleeping bag in here. I know this sounds weird, but I have all the camping basics on my back, and every time I come on the trail, I practice carrying that weight so it's comfortable for me. This does not feel heavy to me because I carry it all the time that I go on the trail. Now, there are many people that walk this trail and they just have their keys and they're jogging or running, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, if you want to practice being comfortable, then you need to be practicing being comfortable by being uncomfortable. So in the beginning, it was uncomfortable to carry this extra weight on my back. But because I'm now familiar with it by repetition, it's comfortable to me. It's not a big deal, okay? And likewise, when that woman came up to me and she's like, where do I go? And she couldn't answer the most basic questions. Again, all I could do was lead her to the next fork in the road. But she still had to make a decision about which trail she was going to choose to be on. If she was going to stay on the red trail, then the red trail is going to take you to a certain destination. If she's going to be on the blue trail, then that's going to take you to a different destination. So I can't make other people be responsible. And the fact that she did that with her son, the point is, she should have had a map. And when I pulled up the map on my phone and I said, "Where are you on the map?" "I don't know. I don't really know how to read a map." Well, you shouldn't be in the middle of the woods if you don't know how to read a map. These are basic survival things. And yet people get into the trendiness of, oh, it's a nice day, I'm going to take my son on a hike. And then they don't even know where they're going. They're not prepared. She didn't have any supplies. And then the kid's freaked out because she's freaked out. And the point is, when I'm on the trail, I'm prepared for me. I'm not prepared for a family of 3. I'm prepared for me. And a family of 3 needs to be prepared for a family of 3. That she should have had power bars and water bottles and a crossword puzzle or something. She should have been prepared for her kids, and she was not. And that's why she panicked. But I could not even bring peace to her because she could not answer the basic questions. So I come back to repetition. If you repeat going down the same place over and over again, you're going to become familiar with the terrain, with what comes around the bend. You're going to know what type of gear that you're going to need to have based on the season. As you carry your gear, you're going to become familiar, and it's not going to be a pain in the butt when somebody else says, "Hey, do you mind carrying this for a minute?" No problem, because you've already prepared yourself and conditioned yourself by repetition to be able to carry a load heavier than just your body walking in the woods. So, sometimes repetition also takes the form of us having to repeat the words that we speak over and over again to certain people because they don't get it. And then we have to repeat ourselves again because they don't get it. And then guess what? We have to repeat ourselves again because they still don't get it. If they got it, they would be demonstrating that they understood, and their behavior would reflect the understanding. But if their behavior is not reflecting the understanding, then they don't get it. So, we're coming back to repetition. Your thoughts create your words create your deeds create your character creates your habits and your patterns, and your habits and your patterns become part of who you are and your personality. So, if I continue to go on hikes and subject myself to various weather conditions, and I keep carrying a pack or a knapsack on my back, and I continue to challenge myself aerobically, and I continue to check out different trails so that I become familiar with a variety of trails, then guess what? If something were to happen, do I know where to get water? Yep. Do I know how to carry it out? Yep. Do I know where to set up shelter? Yep. Do I know where I can be protected? Yep. How do I know these things? Because I've lived these things. I'm practicing these things. These things are part of my reality. In comparison I love my best friend. She is sweet as pie. And she is not a hiker. She is a stay inside the comforts of her home kind of person. And she's not very athletic. Well, how could she be your best friend? Well, she has a heart for God. She has a compassionate soul. And we enjoy movies. We enjoy conversations. And we enjoy doing activities that are surrounded by food and family and friends. Now, if I were to put my best friend in the woods and leave her here, oh my gosh, she would be a mess. Because this is not comfortable for her. This is so outside of her reality that it would feel like a huge imposition. In contrast, this is where I feel alive. This is where I feel comfortable. And as a result, I'm not afraid. I'm not freaking out. And many people tell me a lot. They're like, why are you walking in the woods by yourself? I do a lot of things by myself. I don't have the luxury of having a husband or having a child. I am an independent, single woman who does most of the things in my life by myself. Now, when I have the opportunity to connect up with other people, do I enjoy other people's company? Absolutely. But if you ask me, do I prefer solitude? Yes. Do I prefer peace? Yes. When you are with another person, and specifically when you are with another person that is an addict, that is an alcoholic, or that is a narcissist. The other key point about repetition is that when you are in proximity and you spend time with another person who is an addict, an alcoholic, and a narcissist, it is the repetition of the things that they say. It is the repetition of the things that they do. It is the repetition of their bullshit which catches them in their own trap. Okay? Most alcoholics, addicts, and narcissists are liars, manipulators, and they have an ulterior agenda. They have multiple girlfriends, they have whores, they steal money, they steal assets. Their entire story about who they are is so very different than who they really are. So, in that scenario, it is by repetition that you need to watch, pay attention, and observe. So, when my fiance would say something which made zero sense, it sounded like a made-up story, I would then investigate what he said. So if he said that he had talked to his sponsor and that he had seen his sponsor that day and that they went to such and such and that's why he was late, I ain't dumb. I called his sponsor and I said, hey Andre, I just want to make sure, did you see Eric today? Because he was acting real crazy today. No, I didn't see him, man. I haven't seen him for a couple weeks. So, that is the sign They have a lot of stories. They repeat their stories on a cycle. They use the same excuses with the same people as part of their cover-up story. And so he kept using the story that he was hanging out with his sponsor. And because he used that story, I thought, oh, he's with his sponsor. But the reality was, he was not. And when I finally caught on, through the repetition, I was like, something is not right. And when I talked to his sponsor, I said, look, I'm interested in being in a relationship with someone who's honest, someone who takes responsibility for their actions, and someone who has my back. If Eric is not with you and he doesn't have my back and he's making up lies and he's using drugs and he's relapsing, I cannot make future plans with him. I cannot put my life at risk. And his sponsor would be like, of course not, Ann. Why would you? He's been painting a picture to you and me that he's all on board, but until he hits his rock bottom, there's nothing I can do, there's nothing you can do that's going to make him get it. And that is the truth. The repetition of a drug addict going for the drug over and over and over again. The repetition of the pattern of choosing the whores over and over and over again. It's a choice. It is a choice. It's not an accident. It's a choice. And when it is repeated over and over again, it becomes a pattern. And when that pattern is repeated, it becomes part of a person's character. So, to summarize this, my ex-fiance, who died of drug addiction, was a lying, cheating, manipulative person. And when I connected the dots, and there were many dots to connect, and it took me time to connect these dots, to follow through on all these stories that he had made up. The point is, he was relapsing, he was in active drug addiction, he was whoring around with many, many uncool people. He was stealing from me, he was stealing from my family, he was lying to my friends, he was lying to me, and in the end, he lost. He lost. I'm still here. So, people have to make a choice. And that means a total and deep surrender. And until one can come on their knees and surrender all of their faults, their sins, their addictions on their knees and be like, Lord, please help me. I can't do this anymore. Until a person gets to that point, it ain't gonna happen. And the statistics say that most people, it takes them like, 6 to 20 times before they actually finally give up their addiction. I mean, those are some pretty horrible statistics. And I don't know about you, but I don't have time for that nonsense. So, thanks for listening. Repetition. Pay attention to what's repeating in your life by your decisions, by your choices, and also by those around you and how they use repetition to manipulate you.